Staying on top of trends in the fantasy hockey game is essential to building a winner. We're breaking down which clubs are going up and going down on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And getting this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, my fantasy fanatics, to the Thursday, January the 8th episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, where we're going to always show love to the everydayers who continue to make us their first listen every single day, putting the Locked On Sports Podcast Network as the number one sports podcast network out there. On today's show, my friends, a whole bunch to get to, and you know I got the big-time bets ready to roll, stacking that pocketbook up with a little bit of cash, a couple of winners earlier this week, so stay tuned to the end of the show where I'm going to be dropping my favorite picks of the night, a juicy, absolutely loaded 12-game betting board, trending teams. That's the topic of today's show. Up and down. Clubs that are starting to fade and clubs that are starting to heat up, and I think you know what to do with these targets, my friends. I've got some players out there very much available in your leagues on the clubs that are on the right way up. Can't wait to talk all about it. Let's start, though, specifically mentioning that this is a West Coast bonanza. There's a lot going on in the Western Conference. Teams on the rise, I'll get to that. That is the Edmonton Oilers and the Seattle Kraken. I've got a few different angles to break down there for you guys. I want to start on the negative side of things with the Anaheim Ducks and, of course, the Winnipeg Jets. Trending clubs are something you have to keep your eye on when it comes to making fantasy teams a success. Knowing when to fade, when to pounce, when to really, we throw this out a lot, get a piece of a certain team. So let's dive into it with these Anaheim Ducks. Because yes, they have caught a whole lot of love from us here on this podcast. By the way, shout out to you guys who continue to make us your first listen. That's not just a couple of words. It means the world to Bo Steele and I. He'll be back next week. If you guys are feeling the solo episodes, drop me some feedback. I absolutely love it, and it helps us get better and it helps us build your guys, your winners. However, the Ducks have one win in their last 10 games. And yes, we've shown a lot of love for what they bring to the table. Fantasy Goldmine still holds true. Kreider, Carlson, Terry on that top line right now. Beckett, Seneca, Mason McTavish, Cutter Gauthier on the second line. There's a couple of things that come to mind for a team that is definitely trending in the wrong direction. Number one, Leo Carlson has one goal in his last 13 games. This is a player that if you drafted him this season, kudos to you. It would have been a very bold back-end move or maybe an astute one, depending on how highly you put Leo Carlson. The fact remains he's gone dry. Beckett Seneca, until a 3-goal span over the last 5 games, also went dry. Cutter Gauthier, 1 goal over his last 4 games. These are very young players. You're going to have this 100%. We talked about growing pains on yesterday's episode. However, I look into the cage at Lukas Dostal. Lukas Dostal, with some of the offense drying up, the 2-7-1 record that he's had over his last 10 games to go along with the .851 save percentage and 3.60 goals against average is a concern. I've talked at length about how much I like this goaltender, and I still think he's the real deal. But right now, this is a concern. This is a team that you have to be wary of. If you were overly invested in, you might have to get a little bit creative. I am an owner of Cutter Gauthier. I'm still holding him. I'm not saying drop these guys. You're going to have to perhaps bench and shuffle your lineup. Look to the waiver wire episode on Sunday. We'll have some options out there for you guys to bolster your offensive lineup. Because right now, it really is this Ducks team ranking dead last in goals against per game, 3.67 allowed. They take a ton of penalties. I had this number up as well. And all of these angles factor into what you need to know about what's going on with these squads. Anaheim Ducks take the 4th most penalties this year in the NHL. Only the Flames, Bolts, and Boston Bruins have more penalty minutes. But the problem with this squad is They have the 28th ranked penalty kill, only clicking at a 76% clip. So that is going to play into the ability of these young offensive stars to continue to produce at the level that they started at. Like I said, I'm not coming on here to say jump off of them, dump players, drop guys like Cutter Gauthier in that. However, you just have to pay attention to what is going on with the club, because you're going to have to perhaps augment your offensive potency if you were relying on some of these guys in this lineup. Growing pains are going to happen. The blue line is still what I think to be one of the best young blue lines, really kind of partnered off with the Trubas and Gudases of the world. They're still going to be heard of, but with a team like this in the position it's in now, with that the stretch of poor play, they've played themselves right out of a playoff spot. I think they're hanging on to a tie for the wild card spot. With so much hockey to go, there could even be a situation where this gets a little worse before it gets any better. I feel the exact same way with the Winnipeg Jets. And I thought long and hard about this Winnipeg Jets team. And, Connor Hellebuck was injured, no doubt. It's been covered pretty well that very close to this time last year, maybe a couple of weeks ago, they were in first place a year ago. And now what they have done is a 3-19 record over their last 22 games. The Central Division is absolutely insane, and it's almost like they saw what was going on with Dallas and Colorado and then the revamping of Minnesota's lineup and almost packed it in. I know that's not the case, but when you have less points than the Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks, and Nashville Predators, that's a serious issue. And it's trickling into the impact of their fantasy value as well. I threw in my notes here. Should they be a seller at the deadline? I don't know if it's too early or not. I just wanted to throw that out there. But what you have here is a few different things. And this is where I really do wish Steele was here to kind of bounce these back off me. Bad penalties, blown leads, poor play in their own zone, and a serious lack of secondary scoring. I know Kyle Connor has still been a stud. You get what you get out of Mark Scheifele, but the additions to this team, Jonathan Taves, Gustav Nyquist, Tanner Pearson, and I know those are all kind of bottom six guys, but if the bottom six can't contribute, and it can't prop up the top six, then we know that there is going to be issues and there's going to be a vacuum of fantasy value in a team that should have been producing a whole lot more. 69 points for the Avs, 58 both for the Wild and the Stars, and you got the Jets with 35. The season is almost over for this Winnipeg Jets team. And then we have a whole other situation to kind of maneuver with these fantasy pieces. And you guys are probably thinking, okay, Flip, spit it out. What do you do with this team that is 3-19 in their last 22 games? The answer is, I can't even really tell you, but they better find a way to score more goals, because they sit 23rd in the NHL with goals per game with 2.85. They're tied for 23rd in the league in shots on. That is not nearly good enough, especially when both of your special teams sit in the bottom third of the league. Both the penalty kill and the power play has been having issues. So I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if a shakeup even comes. I would say, aside from the top three players on this team, throw in Josh Morrissey as well. So that would be Connor, Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, and of course, Connor Hellebuck. I'm being very, very wary of how much I'm going to rely on some of these pieces depending on the format. That's my take with the Winnipeg Jets, because things are getting real ugly. And the Anaheim Ducks, 1-7-2 in the last 10 is ugly as well. The Winnipeg Jets have lost 10 straight games, and just the other night, another gutless one to the Vegas Golden Knights in overtime fashion. Once again, just like I said, it feels like this one could get worse before it gets better. I promise, after the break, a lot more rosy of a conversation. McDavid and the Oilers, the Kraken cooking. Positive players owned less than 50% that you can jump on both of these teams. I want to talk about that. Big time bets. I got another solo episode coming up tomorrow, so make sure you check that out as well. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Rocket Money. You know we love talking about our friends at Rocket Money here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where your money is actually going each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. Who has the time to track every transaction and hunt down hidden fees? Rocket Money comes in the clutch just for that. The personal finance app that helps you take control, finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I was shocked when Rocket Money showed me I was paying for an unwanted music subscription that I completely forgot about. Already saving me money. I know it's doing the same for Steel, and I'm sure it'll do the same for you guys out there. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Rocketmoney.com. You guessed it, /lockedon. Much love, my friends, for tuning in for the Thursday show. I'm fired up. I've been trying to come up with these topics all myself. I hope you guys have been liking them. Make sure you smash that follow button, hit the subscribe, drop us a 5-star review, drop us any feedback as well. Means the world to both Steele and I, and for real, it helps us get better. And while we're on the topic, check out our new Everydayer Club right now. Access to an ad-free audio feed for our podcast, compatible with all platforms and every major podcast app. You can get into the Everydayer Club Discord server, a group chat just for listeners of our show. Jump into it right now. Check the show notes for all of the details, and I can't wait to chat with you guys in there. We're going to get that going heavy. Let's get it going heavy. Trending teams that you need to talk about. On the negative side, the Ducks and the Jets, be wary. Simple one. Maybe not so simple, but equally as intriguing. I'll admit it, my friends. I was wrong about the Seattle Kraken. And yeah, there's a lot of hockey to go down, and I don't really like to eat my hat, even though it happens. The Seattle Kraken right now are looking legit. And you might take a look at their forward group. I just kind of poked holes in the bottom 6 of the Winnipeg Jets. And realistically, the Seattle Krakens doesn't jump off the page either. But this is definitely a group that, the greater than the sum of its parts. You know the term I'm trying to throw out, because when I look at the top line of Eberle, Beniers, and Capo Caco, ho-hum. Chandler Stevenson, Freddie Gaudreau, someone named Ryan Winterton on the second line, Shane Wright, McCann, and a rookie in Berkeley Canton on the third. This team is 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. This team is also sitting 1 point adrift from the division lead and 2 really good teams in the Edmonton Oilers, who we'll talk about, and the Vegas Golden Knights. 4 straight dubs. This is a situation where I have definitely come on this show multiple times and said that I don't buy into a team that has that average looking of a roster. But when you are getting what you're getting out of Chandler Stevenson, Eberle, and Beniers especially, because that's who I wanted to highlight first, these are their top 3 leading point getters. They're all owned at 50% or less. Stevenson, 35% on Fantrax, 18 on Yahoo. Eberle having a great season. Just spoke about him. 48% on Fantrax, 33 on Yahoo. But how about in the cage with Philip Grubauer as well? And I know Joey Decourt has been getting a lion's share of the starts, but it's Grubauer that I wanted to talk about for a second here, because he might be an excellent week-to-week stream, or if this team's on a back-to-back or they play 4 games, he is going to get some good looks here, especially while they're hot. I had to highlight it. Grubauer, .926 save percentage. He's won 4 straight starts. He's got a 2.21 goals against average, and he is looking really good. Shout out to the German team that has a couple of really good pieces on it as well. Seider, Stützle, obviously Leon Draisaitl. It's going to be a really fun tournament there. I keep talking about it, and that's just because I'm really fired up. But the Seattle Kraken deserve some credit. I wanted to throw that their way. When I look at them in the standings now, 1 point shy of the Oilers and the Knights, I almost don't want to believe it because I've talked them down so much, but I can't deny the fantasy value that is at hand right now with a team that is definitely being overlooked. Is it elite? No, it's not, but it's perfect to augment your roster in. I look at them for goals for and goals against. They're really kind of average of the pack in both senses of the form. Actually, the Kraken sit near the bottom for goals for, but they have been getting it done by committee, and right now they deserve some credit. So that's what I want to say about that before I get to big time bets. And make sure you guys check us out the rest of the week. Steele will be back. We'll have a Saturday special as well. The Edmonton Oilers the other night. The Connor McDavid show against the Nashville Predators. When a player is able to do what he does in general, yeah, we're always impressed. Penalty shot goal, breakaway goal, 5-on-5 goal, all insane, carving defenses up. He's on a 16-game point streak, the second of his career. He is absolutely playing on another level right now. And the conversation of whether or not it's Nathan MacKinnon or him as the top fantasy piece in the game, I'm going to save that one for my boy Steele because him and I have been going back and forth about that. But right now, Connor McDavid is on a special type of heater, and it's propelling the Edmonton Oilers. 75 points for Connor McDavid as I record this, 74 for Nathan MacKinnon. This is the way that this team has to win games given the makeup of their blue paint. And I know that they're still winning. And aside from that, Calvin Pickard and Connor Ingram are not going to be players I ever want to speak about on this show. But there's a couple of other angles that I wanted to highlight aside from a team that you just want to get a piece of. Take this in. Yeah. Andrew Mangiapane came in as an addition. It hasn't worked out. They signed a big money, long-term deal, maybe not big money, but long-term deal with Trent Frederick. He has looked awful, and I know he got a couple of goals the other night. So the fact that the secondary pieces that they have brought in, that had been a big issue. Kasperi Kapanen comes back, and I'm not saying this guy comes back and he solves all of the secondary scoring problems. Far from it. He had a really good postseason last year, and now he's back on Leon Draisaitl's wing. I mentioned Jack Roslovic, and it's one of those full-stop moments when it comes to fantasy when a player moves on to the wing of a caliber-type guy like Leon Draisaitl. Take a look at what Kasperi Kapanen might be able to do over the next couple of weeks. He's back on the wing. He scored in his return the other night against Nashville. So when you're looking at the Edmonton Oilers in the standings, 6-4-0, this is a team trending in the right direction in a very big way, being propelled by their two big pieces. This is how they win games, very simply. When these two play at this level, they are almost unstoppable. And for now, you want a piece of them. You want a piece of the Kraken. You want to be careful of the clubs that I talked about at the beginning in the Anaheim Ducks. And, of course, the Winnipeg Jets trending in opposite directions, my friends. Let's trend in the right one towards big-time bets and the end of the episode so we can get this paper. Shout out to everybody. Happy Thursday. More money in the pocketbooks, I hope, coming up for big-time bets. You know we're continuing to show love to everybody who's tuning in and checking out that Everydayer Club. Let's have a look at a juicy 12-game NHL betting board for Thursday night's action. Haven't panned out yet. Haven't seen the results of my previous night's picks, diving into Ivan Demidov and the Montreal Canadiens. However, the matchups tonight, I'm feeling a whole lot more. This Vancouver Canucks club is straight up doo-doo. I don't mean to throw out that term to be disrespectful, but they are. And the fact that the Winnipeg Jets still have two less points in them is absolutely mind-boggling. The Vancouver Canucks have a minus 28 goal differential. The only team worse than them in the Western Conference is the St. Louis Blues. This club is going to be a punching bag down the stretch, and one that I am going to fade with regularity. The Detroit Red Wings, even though I spoke about them having one of the toughest second half schedules out there, need a lot of credit for what they've been able to do at the start of the season. I don't know if it progresses. 6-3-1 in their last 10 overall, the Detroit Red Wings. Head-to-head against the Vancouver Canucks, 7-2-1. The Vancouver Canucks are 1-6 in their last 7 games, and they are just straight up really not a good team at either end of the ice. This is an easy one, and it's my lock of the night, so I wanted to get that out of the way early. And the odd is I saw it at 165. I saw it at minus 170. I would take it as high as minus 180 or even higher and slap it into a parlay. this is a free money pick. I hope I didn't just cook myself because I really do love the Red Wings here. At home, great spot, Canucks. Let's hammer it on the money line. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Philadelphia Flyers. This is a really good matchup. The Philadelphia Flyers deserve credit before I dive into why I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are an angle to consider here. I got to show love to the Flyers. 6-3-1 in their last 10 games, holding down the third spot in the Metro Division. A team that's really getting it done by committee with the offense as well. A reinvigorated Trevor Zegras. How good was that game the other night between the Ducks and the Flyers? That's the kind of hockey that people can get behind. The Fairweather fans, watch those highlights and tell me you don't want to watch more NHL hockey. However, let's get back down to business here. DJ Tiesto voice. The Toronto Maple Leafs head into the Philadelphia Flyers absolutely owning the Flyers over their last 10 games to the tune of a 9-1-0 record. So that's the number one pick here. Leafs on the money line because they have points now in 7 straight games. They are looking like a much different club. When Austin Matthews scores, this team goes. I've said it so much. I even meant it before when even Mitch was on the team. I've said it so many times. They will go as far as 34 carries them. Simple and plain. And now, with Austin Matthews doing just that over his last few games, 6 goals over his last 3 games and in his career against the Philadelphia Flyers, because you know I got those numbers for you, my friends, as well. 28 points in 22 games, including 13 goals. Let's go with Poppy. Austin Matthews to stay red hot with an anytime goal. You know when he starts to shoot it like this, he could go on a prolonged heater of goal scoring. So let's go with Austin Matthews anytime goal. Let's go with the Maple Leafs on the money line as well. You're probably going to get a very good odd here considering the Flyers have been what they have been. And let's go with the lock of the night. Detroit Red Wings on the money line. I think all 3 of those are perfect for a parlay. If you're getting spicier, I would also probably lean to that Red Wings Vancouver game over the total if you want to slap another one in there for the value. But those are the picks, my friends. That is the Thursday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you for tuning into today's show. Make sure you check out tomorrow's show. I've got more content on the way. It might be a goalie special, might be a special guest. Once I know, you'll know as well. Make sure you subscribe and never miss an episode where you can check out the Everydayer Club built for you. Get all of the info in today's show notes. Members only Discord access, ad-free episodes, and for those on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel on audio. Make sure to make your second listen. NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. That's right, my friends. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the last couple of solo shows. I'll be back for Friday's episode for more Fantasy Fire. Good luck, and we'll see you then.